war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars. And it's been said if we lose that war, and in so doing lose this way of freedom of ours, history will record with the greatest astonishment that those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening.
We, the people, tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. Our Constitution is a document in which we, the people, tell the government what it is allowed to do. The man is not free unless government is limited. And informed patriotism is what we want. But still watch closely. And don't be afraid to see what you see.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. For as a wise man once said, an error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it.
When in hell are all you people going to wake up?
Moretti, Underground, the Liberty Report.
Well, hello, America. Welcome to the Monday, June 30th, 2014 edition of Moretti Underground, the Liberty Report, the best patriot news on the web. We're broadcasting live from PRN Radio Network. Of course, that's the exclusive home of the Watchmen of America program. Hey, Watchmen. How you doing, guys? Great group. I'm Joanne Moretti, and my great co-host, JoJo Norton, will be here in a couple of minutes to join me. And we're happy you tuned in, too. Thank you so much. Our call-in number is the same as always, 714-888-7404. And our chat rooms, both at Blog Talk Radio and right here at Patriot Resistance Radio Network, or PRN as we call it. The chat rooms are open for you. Our amazing and dedicated colleagues, Lynn, Famous Anna, and AstroTurf, are in the chat rooms putting all the links to our documents, articles, and other sources, as well as important information on other things, too, into the chat. So you have it all available to you. Thank you, ladies, for providing that sweet courtesy. Our colleagues are way more than people who just put links into chat rooms. They're the most fantastic crew of researchers, journalists, and dear friends. We have a group that's unmatched. And there are many of us, by the way. Some we can name, some we can't. We also have a graphics department, too. I love all you guys. Thank you for being there for us. We have a great show lined up for you tonight. And this is our last show of the season. But we will be back and raring to go in the fall. In the meantime, you won't have to suffer through summer reruns because our friend and colleague Arlen Williams, the editor-in-chief of Gulag Bound, has agreed to be a summer replacement. Arlen's going to be here second hour, as a matter of fact, to introduce himself and tell you all about the new show and the launch of his action committee. Before Arlen comes in, though, we have a lot of news to catch up on. A lot of news, too. I mean, things have been breaking all over the place today. But before we even get to that, we have to do a disclaimer. That just lets the FCC, the NSA, the feds, or anyone else who might be interested that anything said on this show is my responsibility and not that of our wonderful sponsors, the Watchmen of America or PRN. The disclaimer goes like this. The comments made by hosts and or guest hosts or phone callers of the PRN radio network do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints, ideology, beliefs, or anything else, for that matter, of members of the Watchmen of America program or the Patriot Resistance website, either in past, present, and even future broadcasts. All right, well, now that that's out of the way, let's get JoJo in here, and we'll get this party started. I'm going to open up her microphone here. Hey, JoJo.
Yeehaw. Hey, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing?
Did you take your? I'm good. You're the one that needs some blood pressure medicine. I've been busy all day, so I hadn't got riled up like you have.
Oh, Jojo, my blood pressure is shot right through the roof. I'm telling you right now, this has been one big day. Obama drives me crazy anyhow, but he really went over the deep end this time.
Well, look, one of our really, really good buddies, Jackie O, put some breaking news out, but there's no link to it. And I haven't had time to get on Twitter. I'm kind of thinking she might have got it off of Twitter. So if Lynn or Anna out there, maybe they can go find the link. But, Jackie, she wouldn't have put this out if she hadn't seen it somewhere credible. I know her. She says, breaking, Israel bombing dozens of terror targets by land, air, and sea. Real quick, I tried to find some kind of link, but I didn't have time. So I'm kind of assuming she got it from Twitter because otherwise she would have, shared the news article.
Yeah, it's our colleagues.
Somebody got Twitter.
If it's out, AstroTurf is saying Mark Levin reported the same on his show last hour. And Lynn says, the Daily Lead, breaking, Israel has started bombing terror targets in Gaza, and she put a link out there. Good.
Okay, good.
Good. We're going to get to that, but I'll tell you, that's, I don't care if they vaporize them. Before we go anywhere, though, before we even start the show, I want to tell everybody that we're going to be taking the summer off, and, instead of you guys having to suffer through reruns all summer and, all of that, our dear friend, colleague, Arlen Williams, is going to be taking over this time slot until we get back in the fall. He was really nice enough to agree to do that. I don't know if you all know Arlen. He's a wonderful man, very spiritual man. He's a good guy, and he is the editor-in-chief over at Gulag Mound. A couple of our other colleagues, CJ and Tallulah, work over there with him. And he's starting this new action project. I'm going to let him tell everybody about it. But, he's going to be launching it, so what better place to have a platform, too, to do it with than his own show. So we hope you guys will stick around and, show him some love. But also, don't forget about us either, because we're coming back. We're just, taking the summer break. You want to say anything to everybody, Joe?
Well, yeah. I just couldn't keep up no more because I'm a pea-picking fool right now. I planted enough peas for my whole town, and now I'm trying to pick all of them. So, needless to say, I don't have time to read the news all day. And that's why today I don't know much either, but I'm sure Joanne knows
really is
both of us.
JoJo's a pea picker. I saw her video. She posted a video yesterday, the day before, of this machine that shells peas. Can you imagine that? I never knew that. All the time wasted snapping the tops off and pulling the strings down and opening them up.
You're not a grits. Only grits girls know. Girls raised in the South know about pea shellers.
Yeah, I had never seen one.
On here. I picked another bushel this morning.
Wow.
So, yeah. And it's going to be like that every day for a while. That's why I can't hang in here with all this news. So somebody will have to let me know if something big happens, because I'm not going to know.
All right, another of our colleagues just jumped into the chat room, Color Me Red, says, right now, sirens, alarm sounding, and Eshkol, rockets launched from Gaza. Seek shelter immediately from Gaza. Oh, boy.
Okay, it sounds like a chicken bone.
All right, and Lynn is saying that there's a train on fire on a bridge to Louisville. Man.
Kentucky? I thought that was in Ohio. Or maybe it's the Ohio River.
Oh, maybe it's the Ohio River. All right, Israel's bombing Gaza with armed boats, F-16s, and Apache helicopters following deadly discovery of 3 boys. Amazing.
And then I saw a little headline that the Muslims attacked the ambulances carrying the boys' bodies.
I did. I saw that, JoJo. Yeah, they found we're gonna get to that, but they found that the 3 young men, the Israeli students, one of them is American actually. He's got a dual citizenship, but they found them in a field, and Bibi went and told the family that there will be consequence, and I guess he doesn't waste any time, huh? And that's how you do it.
I don't think he has a pink line. Bibi ain't got no pink line.
No.
When he draws a line, it's a Bibi line.
And Obama, of course, Obama was saying, well, we urge both the Palestinians and the Israelis not to disrupt or to, I don't know.
He's worried about Ramadan. Don't disrupt.
Yeah, he's saying don't do anything to disrupt the peace. Are you kidding me? Oh, inflame anything. If you kidnap and murder our citizens, we're supposed to disrupt everything in your life. So that's just the way it is. You don't show restraint. What should have been done is show restraint and not kill those boys. That's where the restraint should have been shown. Here they are with all these talks and wonderful, la-di-da talking points. But then the Palestinians join up with Hamas. They're in the same. They have a combined government now. They refuse to recognize Israel, and then he's killing Israeli kids. Well, why would I show? I wouldn't show restraint. You kill my kid, I'm not showing you any restraint, honey. I'm coming. Expect me. That's just the way it is. Reaper says Obama's a pussy, and he's sorry for the language. But come on, grow up here. You don't have to be sorry. Reaper. One of our wonderful watchmen. I love that guy. Hey, Obama gave a speech today. Jojo
we
told
have to
you
say that word on the air? Oh, yeah, I guess we can because it's a kitty cat, technically.
Or it's a rock group. Call themselves a riot. Or it's Code Pink in the Dancing for JJs.
in their suits, in their little pink suits.
Yeah.
Oh, y'all are sure going to miss us. I know y'all are going to miss us. 2 months without us, I don't know what y'all are going to do for entertainment.
Hamas spokesman just said any Israeli action over the death of the 3 teens would open the gates of hell.
Let's bring it on, then.
All right.
So I guess that's supposed to scare Bibi Netanyahu? I don't think
it's going to
so.
open the gates of hell. They're right. And Bibi's got the key. Let's get back to Obama's speech. Let's try to stay in order here. I can't do that. I'm as bad as I'm really ADD. Obama gave a speech today. I don't know if you guys listened to the speech, but let me tell you something. It was the most dictatorial, Marxist, bullying speech I've ever heard come out of that man's mouth. And then he does this whisper talk like we're supposed to be listening to him because he's talking just to you. He can shove that whisper talk, too. Obama came out and said that he's going to nationalize all these people, these illegal immigrants. Where does he get the authority to nationalize them? They have, even if they were going to have amnesty, amnesty is for the applicants. No one's even applied to become an American. This is like forced nationalization. He can just go kidnap people and bring them over here and then just make them nationals without them ever asking. They didn't ask to become Americans. Not that I know of. But, really, could he just airlift anybody in from any country? Now,
that's what he's doing.
He also spoke like a true domestic batterer. I mean, how many people who have punched the living stuffing out of their old lady and then said, I really didn't want to hurt you, but you made me do it.
Yeah.
Spoken like a true batterer, this guy. He doesn't really want to take executive action, but Congress is making him do it because they're not going to bring him bills that he wants to sign. And he talked all about the Republicans. He blamed the Republicans for this, and the Republicans did that, and the Republicans won't give him anything, and they won't pass any bills. The Republicans have passed bills. There's 300 bills sitting on Harry Reid's desk as we speak, and Harry Reid is never brought to the floor. So I have other news for everybody. If sit back and think about this for a second. Yeah, we had George Bush as president up until 2008. But in 2006, the Democrats took over the Senate and the Congress. There hasn't been a Republican majority since 2006. In 2008, Obama won. That's when they had supermajority. Obama's a Democrat, the Congress was Democrat-controlled, and the Senate was Democrat-controlled. In 2010, the Republicans did take over the Congress, but still, Obama's a Democrat and the Senate is a majority Democrat. So they weren't in the majority then. Then in 2012, we still held on to the House, they still held on to the Senate, and Obama got reelected. So There has not been a Republican majority since 2006 in this country. So anybody who falls for this obviously doesn't know what the real deal is. Now, he decided he's going to do an executive order on immigration. He announced from the White House Rose Garden he's no longer going to wait for congressional action, but he intends to attack America's immigration woes by way of executive order. He said America can't wait forever, and he's launching a new effort to fix as much of our immigration system as he can, he said. Now, the senior White House, this is from WorldNet Daily, a senior White House official further explained Obama's first step will be to direct the Homeland Security and Justice Departments to move available and appropriate enforcement resources from our interior to the border. When did he get this big idea that, maybe you should move resources to the border? He could have done that all along, so now this is his major big thing. He specifically blamed Republicans for the flood of illegal immigrants. It must have been the Republicans making La Raza go down there and put advertisements in. It must have been the Republicans sending planes down there to airlift orphans out of there into the United States. Must have been the Republicans that unloaded 7 planes of Somali Muslim immigrants into Massachusetts, right? That wasn't the Republicans, ladies and gentlemen. Anybody who cannot see that this whole immigration crisis that's going on right now is community organized. We told you about Soros. We told you about La Raza. We told you about the airlifting. We told you about all the corruption. Now, you know damn well 48,000 toddlers did not walk through Mexico undetected to the United States and hand themselves over to Border Patrol. They were flown and dropped off.
Back up. Look, let's back up because he wants to blame it on the Republicans. That might be one of those kind of out-of-context statements because there are some rhinos that are going to help him out with this, McCain being one of them. So, yeah, he probably had a little bit of – he can blame it on Republicans, a couple of them that are helping him with his agenda.
Yeah. And I got to tell you something else, folks. Like I just told you, there's 7 plane loads of Somali Muslims that were dropped off in Massachusetts. They were all settling in Springfield, Massachusetts, all right? They're turning that place into Dearborn. Not everybody is an orphan or a tomato picker. We've talked about this. Get those images out of your head because there's a lot more. If anybody thinks 48,000 toddlers can come across the border undetected, how many jihadis can come across? All right? They're being airlifted in. They're being airlifted in. And now they're calling them refugees. We talked about this, too. They are not refugees. Refugees come from war-torn countries. They are religiously or physically persecuted by a government. Okay? These people aren't being religiously or physically persecuted. They are being told to say that. There's no war going on in Honduras or Guatemala. All right? Don't buy this refugee thing. If they give them refugee status, that comes with a whole new set of mandates. Now they're not illegals anymore. Now they are invited here, and you got to take care of them.
Now, I want everybody to remember what I said a couple weeks ago, and Google this later. It's called Orphan Train. This is back in the 30s and the 40s, I believe. These kids were all orphans that came out of New York City. I can't quote everything. Some of this is just from memory, but Google it later. I'm just going to say they all came from somewhere like New York City. This city was in the, just overran with orphans. They put all these orphans on trains. They shipped them out here to Arkansas, East Texas, Louisiana, this part of the country, Oklahoma, and they gave them to these families. A lot of the families that took them in had big farms and needed help. At some time during the last 25 years or so, they got a huge settlement from the government. So I want everybody to write that down, to Google it later or whatever search engine, Orphan Train, because I want you to think about that, because you're going to take 60, 70, God only knows how many thousand people, and 20 years from now, we're going to cut them a big check. It just has the same history, same remnants, same everything of the orphan train back from the 30s and the 40s.
Yeah, well, just remember, these people are not refugees. People in Syria would be refugees, but not these people. These people are just here because they were rounded up and brought here and promised everything by these community organizations. You know damn well the Open Societies Foundation for Soros is fronting the money to get them here. You know damn well La Raza is the one who's paying for the newspaper ads and TV ads. You really don't think that the media down there is putting these ads on for free, right? As a, just kindness of their heart, that isn't happening either. Now, Boehner come out and he put a statement out, which was just a whole bunch of nothing. But I'll tell you what he said anyhow. This is from John Boehner. House Speaker John Boehner, Ohio, issued the following statement on an announcement today. In our conversation last week, I told the President what I've been telling him for months. The American people and their elected officials don't trust him to enforce the law as written. Until that changes, it's going to be difficult to make progress on this issue. The crisis at our southern border reminds us all of the critical importance of fixing our broken immigration system. It is sad and disappointing that, faced with this challenge, Obama won't work with us, but instead intent on going it alone with executive orders that can't and won't fix the problem. The President's own executive orders have led directly to the humanitarian crisis along the southern border, giving false hope to children and their families that if they enter this country illegally, they will be allowed to stay. The White House claims it will move to return these children to their families in their home countries, yet additional executive action from this president isn't going to stem the tide of illegal crossings. It's only going to make them worse. As the Supreme Court reminded us this week, under our Constitution, there are sharp limits to what the president can accomplish if he ignores the American people and their elected representatives. Okay, that was a whole bunch of hooey. All right? Obama isn't going to secure the border. Our immigration system is broke because we don't have anybody enforcing it. We have perpetual backlogs. You think the VA is the only one with backlogs? No. Of course not. Every system in the whole country has backlogs because we hire deadbeats and we don't ask them to do their jobs. This is orchestrated. And, anybody who doesn't want to believe it, I can't help you, man. You just don't want to see it because there's no way that this many people all at once decided at the same time to flood our border. Not on their own, they didn't. Now, there's been a dead child found at the border. So, obviously, this orchestrated crap, that dead child doesn't matter, does it? That just adds to the optics. They are willing to sacrifice children to advance their agenda. It might not be your child or my child, but there's a dead child at the border, an 11-year-old. It says an unaccompanied migrant from Guatemala was discovered on June 15th in La Jolla, Texas. This is from Breitbart. The body was found in brush, according to Action 4 News. I got to tell you, this dead child is on Obama's hands, and there's probably more that we don't even know about. And the more dead babies, the better it looks. It's for the children and all. Does anybody in their right mind think that a child just decided on itself one day to pack its underwear? Well, they didn't even pack underwear. Just pack themselves up and say, bye, Mom and Dad, I'm going to the United States? Doesn't happen. It's like I said, it's community organized. Obama, the parents, Mexico, South America, La Raza, Soros, Gutierrez, Pelosi, Schumer, and all the other collaborators. They scream about humanitarian issues. Well, like I said, they're willing to kill off children. When are we going to take a stand, guys? And there's diseases. Possibly even Ebola.
Oh, no, I hadn't heard that yet. See, out of all these diseases people talk about, the Ebola is the one that scares me. TB doesn't scare me. Chickenpox, all that stuff. Whooping cough doesn't scare me. Ebola scares the hell out of me.
Elizabeth Lee Villette. She's a doctor. She's a big shot doctor too. She's been with the UN. Hey,
before you go there was a story on Drudge that 57 people with Ebola in Sierra Leone, or however you say that word, have escaped from their quarantine. Yep. So there you go.
Yep, and they just had to make an emergency law over there that harboring them is illegal. So they escaped. They got out. And they, some of them may have Ebola, some may not, but still, 57 people have gotten out of the quarantine zone. JoJo's right. Now, this doctor, she was with the United Nations, actually. She's one of the Doctors Without Borders, and she's been all over the news and everything. Her name is Elizabeth Villiet, V-L-I-E-T. She says Border Patrol agents have long been at risk for violence from drug cartels and criminals. And just last week, a Tucson sector agent were fired upon by Mexican aircraft inside the U.S. border. But now there's a new insidious threat to Border Patrol agents, families and communities from the crush of illegal immigrants at our southern border, which has become a gateway for disease entry. Border agents have tested positive for tuberculosis, H1N1, chickenpox, other flus. Other diseases like dengue and Ebola virus may also be in this wave of illegals, since people are coming from Central and South America, the Middle East, and West Africa. Dengue fever, including the hemorrhagic form, is already raging in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Ebola virus, hemorrhagic fever, is seriously out of control in several West African countries. These diseases are highly contagious, especially in crowded and poor sanitary conditions in the detention and processing centers where thousands of illegals are housed until sent to other areas of America. I'm going to stop there. That was the main part I wanted to tell you all. But they're not on top of it. They're not warning anybody. They're not even telling people what steps they can take except for frequent hand washing and hygiene.
I think what's going to happen is our little DHS, FEMA, little medical teams they got that are on standby for different disasters and all that kind of stuff, and not along with maybe some military and whatever, they're going to end up having to put up these tent hospitals down there too, because once you have any kind of infectious disease, especially in those type of living conditions that spread like wildfire, so it could, the breakout, I mean, it could be unimaginable. Because especially if it's, you know, I don't know, it's not going to be pretty.
Right.
Now, let's think about some other diseases. Let's say you got 50 kids, and well, that's everywhere now. You get all these kids, 50 kids, they got some kind of contagious disease. They may not be showing signs and symptoms yet. They put them on an airplane, they fly them to some other city. Then if you weren't infected, by the time you finish that plane flight, you're infected. Then they get off the plane, boom, 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 boom. And especially if you have something highly infectious, like smallpox or something like that, could be totally, or Ebola, or MERS, MERS, Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome, and or swine flu, and or all kinds of other stuff. Dengue fever, and I know I didn't say it right, but all kinds of stuff. Especially coming from these third world countries, they've got diseases that we haven't seen in this country in years, like malaria, different things that's just been, and measles, that's been eradicated in the United States.
Smallpox,
now, all these third world countries.
Polio.
Yeah, smallpox. Yep, they'd have them. And remember the polio Syria outbreak. That's been hidden in the news. We've been reporting on that for 6 months or better, but there's all kinds of stuff out there that basically got eradicated in the United States, and now it's going to come back full force.
Right. I see that our colleague Red has got her hand raised on the phone. Red, hang in there one more second. I just want to say one more thing about this immigration, and then I'm going to open up your line, okay? So hang in there. Nancy Pelosi went down to the border this weekend.
Yep, in all her glory.
Yep, and she said that the United States and Mexico are one nation.
Petraeus said it, too. Our General Petraeus that we defended so honorably. He's turned into a globalist. But that's Agenda 21. We've been telling that for years, too. Agenda 21 is it's going to be, all of North America will be one unit. It won't be Canada, United States, Mexico, and South America. It'll all be one unit.
Yeah.
North American Union. American Union.
We are all Americans, North and South, in this hemisphere. And most disturbing for anyone who respects our borders and the rule of law, she said, this is a community with a border going through it. So get it? Illegals on the other side are just Americans trying to get over the border that shouldn't be there. Our national border is an inconvenience, a hindrance, even an obscenity to them. So they ignore it, and they do everything they can to help foreigners cross it illegally, and then refuse to prosecute or remove them when they do so. This is treason. Plain and simple. The U.S. Constitution mandates that the federal government protect each state from invasion in Article 4, Section 4. This is an impeachable offense, and it doesn't get any clearer than that. All right, let's open up Red's microphone because I'm sure she's got some breaking news.
All right.
Hey, Red, is that you?
Yeah, I am overwhelmed.
Hi, Red.
I was. Hi, how are you? I was talking to a gal in Texas who's a nurse in critical care, and apparently she did get TB, which is apparently vancomycin resistant.
Oh my God!
And she is.
There goes her career.
That's that new superpower TB that's only been
that's what she got. She got it from an illegal alien.
Isn't that what that guy had that they were chasing around the world? He had gone from airport to airport. He ended up in Canada and Washington or something. Didn't he have that TB and he was told not to travel and he did anyhow?
Possibly, but
that was a while ago.
Anytime that you hear vancomycin resistant, that means there's just. I mean, vancomycin is the most powerful, right? Right? You should know, JoJo.
It's the last resort drug.
It's the last resort, and if that doesn't work,
but not anymore.
No, there really isn't.
There goes her career too. She can't be around other patients.
She's deathly ill.
If
and and it's like, and these doctors and nurses that that work in these facilities, all of them are at risk. Not to say, and the same with the Border Patrol, obviously, that we've been changing diapers and whatever else, while the cartel have been conveniently moving their drugs in through the back door. It's there has been a human chain formed down there, as you probably know too, that a group of people have got together. But it's just.
Matter of fact, I'm hearing there are quite a few people, American patriots, down there at that border, and more on their way.
Many more on their way. They're just. I mean, people are fed up.
Yeah,
they're not going to count on Obama.
I've seen it all over the web all week. That they're, I'm seeing the pictures and everything.
And then you've got these poor ranchers that live right on the border. I mean, they just live in fear constantly and sleep with all their rifles and whatever.
Aren't they entitled as citizens to the protection?
No, they're not.
Yeah,
no,
well,
they're not.
This
we're Americans. Americans don't get any privileges. You should know that by now.
Yeah, for real.
All the privileges go to these kids and whatever. I mean, they come to Arizona. They dump them in Arizona, which is really great because, first of all, Arizona has no facilities to keep these kids, number one. But number two, we've got in Arizona probably one of the highest rates of child starvation, whatever. That children that really are in need of care. And so we're ignoring our own children in order to take care of these other children. Now, I'm a humanitarian, and I won't turn my back on any child. But on the other hand, I can't turn my back on the kids that are already here. We need to seal the border all the way around and say no more kids coming into Arizona, no more kids coming into Texas.
We're talking about up to like 30 million illegal immigrants in this country. How about you drop 30 million Americans anywhere? And not
you drop one somewhere, and look what happened to him. Look what happened to
the
our
only one
Marines.
who couldn't get back over the border was Tamarisi.
Yeah, and yet their guys were shooting at our Border Patrol over the weekend. Go figure that one out.
Right. Should have shot that out of the sky.
And then they apologized. I mean, excuse me, apologized?
And we're handing money over to these countries. I mean, hand over fist to
we have a lunatic
Honduras,
in
South
charge.
America and Africa and every place else.
We have a lunatic in charge. What can I say? We have an absolute lunatic in charge. And,
I have a solution. If we send them back, we teach them how to fight the issues that drove them out to begin with. Send them home. Repatriate them.
You know what? You've got to send them home. And why you need to send them home is, first of all, they're children. They need their parents. And there's nothing for them here. For them to be locked up in these makeshift facilities and caged in like animals is not the answer. And then to have how many children died along the way? Yeah, they found one, but how many other bodies are out there in the middle of the desert that we haven't found? I mean, these children are dying.
And how many?
They're being raped.
Yeah,
they're
how
being
many
sold
children
into
the
the sex
pedophiles
trade.
get?
Yeah, they're being sold into the sex trade. So I mean, it's just abuse of human beings, and like you said, Obama is using them as pawns.
What parent puts a child in another country unattended?
Unless
they were promised that child would be cared for. Unless they were promised that child would be cared for.
Well, of course they were promised. It's all over their news. I mean, I conversed back and forth with people who lived in the area, and they said it was all over the place. They were given handbooks of what to do and how to, it was like a how-to enter the United States, and they were told to immediately run into the arms, of the Border Patrol, not to run away, and on and on and on. So, I mean, they knew exactly what to do.
And they were all coached.
They were coached. They were well coached. And so the parents felt very comfortable in sending, their children along the way.
Yeah, well, they made it sound like it was summer camp for them. But,
and of course, you recall that back in January that our government actually advertised, for escorts for these children.
Right.
I mean, excuse me, they didn't know about it. But back in January they ran an ad
for 65,000 of them.
Yeah, for 65,000, but they didn't know anything.
Right.
I am so disgusted. I am so fed up with the lying. And if people listening to you are not fed up, something's wrong, because the whole world is falling apart. Thank you, Mr. Obama. And you know what? It's not just him. It started long before him, but he took the lid off. I mean, it's just like he's like Bush on steroids. As many mistakes as Bush made, Obama is a million times worse.
Yep.
I don't know.
All right.
You probably can hear the exhaustion in my voice.
Well, hold on to your hat, because it's about to get a lot worse. Wait till you hear the rest of the show. But I got to move on. We have another phone call here, but I want to thank you for that. And while you're still here, if anything else breaks, put it in the chat room or call back in or whatever.
I will. I'm looking right now. I'm following all these feeds from Israel and whatever, so I'll let you know.
All right. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, our dear colleague, Color Me Red. All right, Red, I'm going to put you back on hold, and I'm going to open up this other microphone.
Okay, great. Talk to you later. Bye.
All right. Now, I don't know who this other caller is, but I'm going to open up the microphone. Area code 845.
Yes. How you doing this evening? The other person that you had already mentioned what I was going to bring up about them advertising in January. You can find it easily. If you do a search on Google for Fed Biz Ops, unaccompanied children, you can actually see the request for an RFI, where they were calling for a request for information. They were looking for vendors that would. But people don't believe it. When you say something like this, I've heard it from other people. When I bring it up, they say, "No, that couldn't be." When you show them the link and they can look at the actual request from the government to put in a bid, people interested in bidding, they don't know what to say. And look at the date, January 29th. Now, that didn't happen overnight. That means they were working on it November or December of last year, setting it up before they published that request.
Exactly.
So
they had to have it all appropriated and set up before they could even put out a bid.
Yep, the money has to be available before they do that. But, they don't even try to hide what they're doing now. They know their time is limited. They know 2016, the show's over for them. So I think it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse.
I call it.
Yep.
Yeah, well,
anyways.
Between now and January, it's going to get exponentially worse, too. In January, there's a possibility that the Senate may flip to a Republican majority. So, if you look at it from the point of view, if you wanted to destroy this country, Obama has exceeded his own wildest dreams.
Yep.
And, we still have our head up our backsides. You know, we should be out in the streets by now. This is treason. This is a foreign invasion. You know, they play it off like it's children. It's 48,000 children. How many adults? They said 36,000 adults came over last week. You know, did everybody think they were all tomato pickers? They're not.
No, you know, honestly, I mean, I'll tell you, I'm on several other shows, talk shows, but
you're breaking up, Jim.
I'm on several other talk shows. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, I'm a government contractor, and so I've been able to see what the government has done and its policies and what Obama has implemented, which never makes it in the media, and it outrages me as a taxpayer and also a government contractor putting up with this stuff for the work that I do. I keep military. It's not like Halliburton, but there are a lot of restrictions on us here in the U.S. on guidelines that the government gives us that we have to match, and they want us doing the minimum requirements to make sure, in their mind, it's fair to all people that compete with the bid. But there's something that Obama did called, look it up sometime, not now, it's involved, called the 876 Circular. And it's been a guideline that the federal government has had in place from the White House from 1966 that basically says the federal government will not compete with the private sector for goods or services. And before the government can make a move, they have to do a cost study. Is it cheaper for the private sector or the public sector to do the work? And whatever's cheapest is mandated to do that, to follow that, for the taxpayers' benefit, for us, whatever's cheapest. Well, Obama didn't like that because he wanted to feed the unions. He suspended all 876 cost studies every year since 2009. He did away with it. And the media never says a word about it. That means that they're not held accountable for what they spend on contracting. Nothing. They can give the work to federal employees and to federal unions, and nobody can say a word because no cost is needed now. They don't care.
Oh, so that explains all that green money and stuff too.
Look up the 876 Circular. Type in 876 Obama, and he's killing small businesses with this. They don't care. They don't care anymore. They'll say it's unintended consequences. Oh well, you know it happens, but they've gotten away with so much, and they've gone in and actually it's not even a lobotomy they've done to our government. They've gone in and rewired stuff like an experiment. Let's see what this does. Let's see what this does. Let's change this around. And we're going to pay the price. It's going to take years to solve this and fix it. Years.
Wow.
Well,
that's incredible information. I wrote down everything you said too. So you will be hearing about 876 Circular and 876 cost studies and 876 Obama. I wrote it all down.
Yeah. Take a look at it.
Hey, I want to thank you.
It's an interesting stuff. Oh, my pleasure.
I didn't get your name. By the way, what's your name? First name?
I'm Mike.
Hi, Mike. Thank you very much for calling in. We appreciate that.
I'm usually over on Firefox with George, Firefox News.
Oh, okay.
I'm under the name of Kilroy is here.
Oh, I know who you are. I know who you are. Hey, thanks for calling our show. I appreciate it.
And I'm on Ron's show, Ron Rec, every now and then.
Nice.
But yeah, it's some interesting stuff to look into. So,
ladies,
thank you so much and have a great night.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye. Well, that was interesting information. That was something we didn't know, that he suspended all that cost studies. All right, guys, there were some Supreme Court decisions today. Let's start with Hobby Lobby, because the liberals are losing their mind over this. You should have seen that Sandra Fluke. She even put an op-ed into the Washington Post today, or the Washington Times. She's acting like abortion and contraception were outlawed. No, it wasn't. Women's rights weren't changed. Religious rights weren't changed. The only thing that was changed was that these people cannot mandate other people of faith to pay for their abortions. Anybody who's an adult, anybody who's ever even heard of a Christian or a Muslim knows that they cannot have anything to do with abortion. They can't have abortions. They can't pay for abortions. They can't subsidize abortions, whatever. So that would be an infringement on their constitutional rights. The court made a very good decision. People who are going to have abortions, they're going to have them, whether you like it or not. They're going to do it. But you shouldn't have to pay for it. And as far as Hobby Lobby's contraception, they pay for 18 different types of contraceptions. There's only like 4 or 5 that they're not paying for because they induce abortion. We do have religious freedom here, whether these lefties want to believe it or not. Just because you start a family company doesn't mean you have to give up your religion. When these employees took the job at Hobby Lobby, they knew it was a Christian company. That's one of the first things they put out there. They closed on Sundays. So, just like Sandra Fluke went to Georgetown intentionally because she went there to start trouble about their insurance protection. They started on Hobby Lobby because it was a Christian company. Now, you don't have to like the decision. You don't have to like abortion. But you don't have to pay for it if you are a person of faith. That's just the way it is. Well, they are going
I just don't
out of control.
understand. Back in my day, it was totally unheard of that your insurance paid for your birth control pills. I mean, that was cash out of your pocket.
Yeah.
Because, you're Catholic, so I don't know but me not being Catholic, I took birth control pills, and it was a strain on my budget back when I was a young woman,
Mm-hmm.
I had to scrape up that money.
Well, birth control pills are $13 a month at Kmart, Walmart, Publix, Winn-Dixie.
Is that all they cost now? I mean, they were about...
That's all they cost. Yeah, they were like $35 back then.
So the price went down, because I remember paying like $12 or $13 back then. And that was a lot of money back then.
Yeah, well, some of them are more expensive, but $13 a month. If you and your old man can't afford $13 a month, there's a lot of other things you could be doing other than procreating.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't even split the cost of $13 a month. As far as abortion goes, find your own way. Planned Parenthood takes private donations. The taxpayers don't have to pay for that for you. And people are yelling, like Sandra Fluke says, now your employer can make your health care decisions. No, that's not what the court said. The court said that they don't have to pay for abortions or abortifacients. They didn't say anything about making decisions on health care. That's not a decision. And, you're saying, my body, my choice, but you got to pay for it? Your body, your choice, you pay for it. How's that sound? You don't put that on people.
The word choice is the key word here. Your choice is whether you have sex or not. Your choice is whether you've educated yourself enough about reproduction to know when you should have sex and when you shouldn't if you're not planning on trying to not get pregnant. I mean, your choice is you got a lot of choices. And then, aspirin's cheap, remember? Just put the aspirin between your knees and don't let it fall.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, I mean, but, the thing is, too, is that Hobby Lobby is actually paying the $13 a month for the preventive contraceptions, just not the abortifacients. But you would think that the roof fell in. And then Obama, he's going to try to overrule the Supreme Court now.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Zero Hedge wrote this. Having had his omnipotence chipped away at last week, Obama has seemingly been pushed too far by the Supreme Court's decision on contraception and Obamacare this morning. The White House stated, Supreme Court decision on contraceptive coverage jeopardizes health of women employed by these companies. How the hell is that going to jeopardize your health if you can't pay for an abortion? Pregnancy is not fatal in most cases, almost every case, just a very, very rare occasion, and there will be underlying reasons for it. It says, we'll work with Congress to make sure women affected by ruling will have same access to contraception. We'll consider whether the president can act on his own to mitigate effect of Supreme Court ruling. Mitigate? He doesn't have to mitigate anything. It's a ruling. He can stay out of it. If Sandra Fluke and Obama are so upset, and Pelosi are so upset, why don't they start an abortion insurance company? That way your members and private donors pay for abortions. If that's what you want, you can leave the taxpayers out of it. You can leave the employers out of it. You can still have the coverage if you set up your own system, just like every other insurance company set up, or just like every employer sets up with an insurance company. Start your own company, all right? Quit laying all this on us. You know, we're not celebrating your
better
sex
yet,
life.
if he wants to make law and override the Supreme Court and Congress and everybody else, why don't he make a law and mandate that every male is required by law to wear a condom? Well, I wonder how good that'd go over.
Yeah, really. Hey, we have another phone caller. Let's open up this microphone and see who this one is. Let me see if I can get this open. Area code 347. You're live.
Hi there. This is Hotep Kenyatta calling. Thanks for taking my call.
Hello. Do you have a question or a comment for us today?
Well, a comment. The abortion issue is not as cut and dry as pro versus con. In some communities, over the past few decades, over 40 million children have been aborted, very often not due to urgent medical need, but convenience. The President Obama.
Control.
What's that?
It's abortion via birth control.
Yeah,
in
it's
other words,
abortion
you
via
just
birth.
abort your baby as a birth control measure. It's not because the baby had spina bifida or you had a rare blood disorder or any medical problem. It's because it's an unwanted pregnancy, so just kill it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, unwanted pregnancy, in my opinion, people need to stop having unprotected sex. I think that far too often we just take a creation like a young, embryo as just a piece of trash when we should look deeper into it. It's particularly genocidal in the black community, African-American community. The level of abortion, and Margaret Sanger actually made statements to KKK members about that. So there are two sides to this coin. One side is some women have a need.
So did Justice Ginsburg. Justice Ginsburg was asked a couple of summers ago by a reporter why she voted yes on Roe versus Wade. And she said, well, at that time, we thought it was to get rid of people we didn't want too many of.
Wow.
That came from her mouth. Look it up, guys. Look it up, everybody, because that's straight out of her mouth. That's a quote from Justice Ginsburg, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And he's right. You know, today, one of them come out and said that limiting abortion is racist. No. Aborting more black babies than are allowed to be born, that sounds a little more racist to me.
Yeah, and you know what happens very often with politicians and people that control the media? They take very legitimate concerns that some of us have, and then they divide us on it, not because they're looking to, help us, but because they're looking to keep us at each other's throats. And many issues such as abortion, police brutality, in my opinion at least, none of the major political parties could give a crap about poor white people, poor black people, women's rights.
That's right.
It's all just a crapshoot, and then we do the job for them, meaning, oh, it's the Mexicans, it's the white people, oh, it's the gay people, it's the black people, and the same people that are on top of the democratic and political machine. They just, lost their way to the bank and go and bail out Wall Street bankers, and we all keep fighting. It's like the football thing. I just saw some football fans kicking each other in the head, right? I don't know if you all saw that game. And I thought, none of you is making a penny off this game, and they're killing. But we do the same thing in politics and in cultural communities, It is not that some of our concerns are not valid, but the people that we think are the enemies, which is the average black, white, straight, gay person, has nothing to do with the economic downfall of our nation or any nation. When we get to that point,
it's called Alinsky's Rules for Radicals.
The what? Alinsky's?
Alinsky.
Okay.
Yes, Rules for Radicals. Saul Alinsky. But
I heard of salami slicing. Yeah.
Sound that could be Saul Alinsky, Rules for Radicals.
Okay, salami slicing was a tactic used in some parts of Europe to separate the groups, the competition. And in some ways, it's similar to, divide and conquer. So.
I misunderstood. Right. I thought you misunderstood what JoJo said. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, I had not heard of what she said. I was just adding to it a European strategy used called salami slicing. That was a nickname for it. But it's basically we're sliced apart. Oh, you're a woman and I'm a man, so we can't agree. How dare we?
Well,
I'm a brown,
I've decided,
yes.
I've come to the realization that the liberals are the real racists. They think that minorities and women and everybody are so much more inferior that their liberal and superior intellect has to rush in and save everybody. We don't need liberals or their alleged superior intellect, which they don't really have. They are the real racists. They're the ones that are feeling that all these other people are inferior. I think people of all races are quite capable of achieving their goals. But you don't need it.
But if I could say, though, in defense of some liberals, not all, there are some liberals who, just like some conservatives, if you look at it at the core, some conservatives just say, look, work hard and get what you can get. And some liberals say, yeah, but that doesn't work for everyone. There are small niche groups that really just need to come together and discuss the issues. But generally, I have a lot of liberals I know who are just closet racists. So the titles we have, often we get in a corner. Like if I take a name liberal, then people come to the table with certain concepts that they think I have, and in many cases I don't. Then on other things, I'm very conservative, but it doesn't fit the liberal label, So I would think moderate might be more,
So just tell people you're a realist.
realist.
This is real. This is the facts, all right? I don't know if it's liberal. I don't know if it's conservative, but here you go, guys. This is what it is,
Yeah. The D-Lo, D-E-A-L-O. Thank you.
I want to thank you very much for calling in, and we appreciate your input. And please call us again.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.
All right. Anyhow, Pelosi said that Hobby Lobby decision was a gross violation of workers' religious rights. I don't know if killing is a religious right, but now somehow that violates religious rights. The Supreme Court.
Hold for it. Carol Ray just sent me a Twitter. She said Twitter's blowing up. Israel breaking, heavily bombing 3 cities in the West Bank, Gaza, Rafah, and Khan Yunis, Y-O-U-N-I-S, Khan Yunis. And there's pictures. And, man, it's a lot of flames. Anyway, Carol Ray just sent me a message saying that Twitter is just blowing up.
Yeah, Carol Ray, thank you. I'm looking at it, too. PZ's top news feed says flames are billowing from the blown-up house of Amir Abu Esheh, a suspect in killing of 3 kidnapped Israelis. Boy, Israel isn't playing, are they? They said that there would be swift and severe consequences. He meant it.
Oh, yeah. Here it is.
Right. Yep. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. You go in, you use overwhelming force. We're going to get to that, too. Today, there was another decision by the SCOTUS that unions cannot make non-members pay fees. The unions are losing their minds. It wasn't a big decision, but it has a lot of implications, and it was a 5-4 split, of course, along ideological lines. But it says here the Supreme Court dealt a blow to public sector unions Monday, ruling that thousands of home health care workers in Illinois cannot be required to pay fees that help cover the union's costs of collective bargaining. It's from the Washington Examiner. The story goes on, and it says how the unions and the Illinois law had included home health care workers. Now, home health care, you might be taking care of your elderly mother or father or a handicapped child. They forced you to pay union dues, but they were not giving you any benefits of the union. You weren't getting any of their life insurance or collective bargaining package like they do with the public, with the public sector unions. But they were forced to pay dues to help offset the union's costs. The ones where they give all the money to the candidates. Well, the Supreme Court said no. If they're, first of all, they are not public sector union. They don't have all these perks of the union. And no, you cannot charge them union dues. So that put everybody in a big tizzy. As you know, those Israeli kids were found dead. Now, Obama has ordered more troops to Iraq. You know, guys, he's incrementally putting us back in there. No, we're out of Iraq. That war's over, but there's 800 troops in there and more on the way. He sent out a letter today, and it said that he's ordered 200 additional troops to Iraq to help protect U.S. personnel in the country. In a letter to congressional leaders, Obama said he has ordered the additional military personnel to reinforce security at the U.S. Embassy and to provide additional security at the Baghdad airport. This force is deploying for the purpose of protecting U.S. citizens and property, and it's equipped for combat. So these are combat troops, ladies and gentlemen. These are not advisors now. They're equipped for combat, he said. So, yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are at war in Iraq. And how long? I mean, they drop their weapons and their uniforms really quickly, right? So how long do you think it's going to be before they turn weapons on our troops? The Iraqi troops were battling for Tikrit now. They did fight a little bit, but they were pushed back. ISIS pushed them back. And ISIS is saying that our State Department and several sources are saying that ISIS is an extremely high threat. So you know how they always give us a warning before something big happens? Well, I think they're giving us the heads up, and you know that this weekend, whatever, is 4th of July weekend. So I'm expecting something big. They put it out there. You know, we are at extremely high threat levels.
Well, not only that, now with what's happened in Israel in the last 4 hours, 4th of July being 4 days away, and you know, they always tell us. So they're not telling us all this just to be flapping their jaws.
Right. All right.
So I'd be highly suspicious of something going down.
Yeah, I'm very suspicious of that. All right, I see Arlen is here. Let's take our first commercial break so then he can have the floor and without interruption. And we'll be right back. And hello again, everybody. We're back live. You're listening to Moretti Underground, the Liberty Report, right here at PRN Radio Network, the exclusive home of the Watchmen of America program. Hey, Watchmen, I love those guys, really do. I'm Joanne Moretti. My co-host JoJo Norton is here with me, too. And our special guest / summer replacement is on the line. I'm going to open up his microphone, and then I'm going to introduce you to Arlen Williams. Arlen Williams is going to be, as we said earlier in the show, that we're going to be taking a summer break, and you're not going to have to listen to reruns because Arlen Williams, he's the editor-in-chief of Gulag Bound. He's also the founder and CEO of this new LLC that he's launching. It's called the Sovereignty Campaign. And let's welcome Arlen to the show. Hey, welcome. Welcome to you, Arlen.
Hi, Joanne. It's great to be here. Can you hear me all right?
Oh, I can hear you just fine, Arlen. It's great to hear from you.
Hey, Arlen. This is JoJo. How you doing?
Hi, JoJo. Real good. And it's been intermittent rain up here in Wisconsin, and it's a beautiful day. And how's it in Florida?
Down here in Florida, it's oppressively hot, and it's rainy season, so it rains for about 20 minutes, and then it disappears like it never happened. But everybody freaks out about rainy season. I don't really know the big deal other than the heat. And JoJo's in
kind of Florida weather here.
Yeah.
So,
JoJo, she's down there in the swamp. She's a pea picker.
I'm in Louisiana, and I need a little rain, so send me some, Arlen.
Okay. So my big question for you two is, do you or do you not eat Gulf shrimp by 2014?
No. I quit eating Gulf shrimp after the oil spill. And trust me, I love Gulf shrimp. I crave Gulf shrimp, but I still haven't eaten it.
Me
Nor
too.
have I.
I did it once by mistake. Yeah,
well, our crew, as you know, broke the information on the core exit and the Gulf spill and all the algae that's going on, and and Mike Nunnally and all that whole crew was helping out with us. Even Tallulah and CJ, friends of yours, your colleagues, helped us out on that.
So here's the deal, Arlen. I've got good friends, Cajun friends, that fish, saltwater fish, in the Gulf and in the swamps and in the, the area. And they have come back since 2010 and telling me stories of all these fish, they'll catch a redfish with tumors all over it, and all kinds of stuff like that. So I'm like, well, no, I don't know how many years it'll take to clean the Gulf out, but it would have been cleaned by now if they'd left the corrected out of it. The corrected is what scares me.
I don't really want to start. I don't want to start growing extra appendages out of my chest or little, feelers out of my head. So I'm not sure I'm going to eat that right now.
Hmm.
Just not sure. But
hey, Alan,
that was a very spooky thing that happened. Mm-hmm.
You're getting all kinds of hellos and hi, Alan, and Lynn wants to know if you're near Mad City. I don't know where Mad City is.
I am. I try to explain to people that I'm 45 miles northwest of Moscow, and then I always have to correct myself and say Madison. And I am stuck here. I actually made it down for that one big event, where Andrew Breitbart and a few others showed up during the camp-in protests that were being done against Scott Walker in Madison that one Saturday. And I kind of took the afternoon shift where he had the morning shift and had a lot of fun that day.
I got a lot of respect for your boy, Scott Walker, there. He's got it going on up there.
Yeah, he's doing the right things.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. And if all these politicians insist on beating each other into the ground and killing each other before they even get near an election, I think Scott Walker might not be a bad idea to run as a dark horse, nice and clean and fresh. Let them all beat each other, and then he comes in all clean and fresh and walks away with the election. He'd be a good dark horse.
Happen.
So keep him in mind.
What people need to understand about Wisconsin is that it has been a breeding ground for a long time of generations of flat-out Marxists, and of course they've gotten into the unions here as well as education and the media, just like all over the country. But few of them make as many bones about being socialists. And I kind of got some people during that protest to admit what they really are, and it was interesting. The first big city mayor that was an out-and-out socialist, and the first congressman that was an out-and-out socialist Marxist were from Wisconsin, at Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and of course whatever congressional district I think was around Milwaukee at the time, and that was like in 1904. So it's been a long time with these fellows. If people think that communism and various brands of Marxism were a Marxist plot out of Moscow in America, it took root in America long before the Russian Revolution, and I got to write about that at the time and put it into Breitbart and Gulag Bound as well.
Yeah, it goes back to Trotsky.
Yeah, he was moving and shaking at the time and wound up in Mexico.
Yep,
or was it Central America? Interestingly enough, and lo and behold, you hit the nail right on the head. This community organized style, Linsky style migration, using children as human shields or human vanguard, if you will, to shove them up into the United States in order to create more havoc and to create more of a bleeding heart issue with immigration, where the president now has to step in and save them, doesn't he? Because,
it's for the children, of course.
Yes, it's for the children. When you create a crisis, you have to take advantage of it, to say nothing of just letting a naturally developed one go to waste. So, the evidence just mounts about that being orchestrated. And as you covered so far during the
Pelosi on Saturday admitted exactly what you said. She said, "This is not a crisis. This is an opportunity."
Sure. And we featured in Gulag Bound the instruction sheet that was being passed around, very Linsky style, to the little handheld underaged puppets about, saying that you're there to, handle issues like, to address questions that they might be asked, like, why did you abandon your country? It was because of poverty and misery And are you in fear of your government and afraid to live in another country? Oh, yeah, I'm afraid. And do you have any family in the United States? Well, this is the first time. Do you swim across the river to get here? Is it the first time? Those questions and how to answer those questions, and found in Spanish language.
Yes, and they have been definitely coached, and it's for the majority of them answer exactly how Alan said. I can't wait to hear your shows and stuff. I don't know if our listeners know much about Gulag Bound, but you put out some fantastic articles. And like I said, I know a couple of your research teams. And
yes, thank you. We do try to emphasize what lies under the rocks and where the bugs crawl from in Washington and Lower Manhattan as well. We feature works by people like Trevor Loudon and James Simpson, who wrote Barack Obama and the Manufactured Crisis articles beginning around 2008. And we have contributions by Tallulah, as you mentioned, and CJ, and Teresa Monroe Hamilton does a champion yeoman's work, helping
what good work!
Edit
what good work she does!
Edit our stuff there, as well as at her blog Noisy Room. And so we've been covering a lot of stuff on the Marxist side, but we want to more and more also delve into what happens on the phony right-wing side and how the RNC and banksters try to control and succeed quite often in the Republican Party, and shift our whole conservative movement, if you will, away from what we're all about in certain respects and into feeding the very same monster that we're trying to fight. And because of the problems that creates, I've opened up this other organization called the Sovereignty Campaign. And the first one is gulagbound.com, and the second one is sovcam.org. And to make a long story short about how we are attempted to be controlled from the right as well as the left, basically these organizations, as you've probably discussed in prior shows, on the left are being funded by this foundation complex that's being fed by transnational tycoons, dead and living, whether it's the Rockefellers and the Guggenheims and Chases and Morgans of the world, or even Henry Ford's foundation, which has now been corrupted, or people like Bill Gates and Ted Turner and those kinds of folks.
Yep.
And so their foundations feed the left. Yes, and then these same people get the same central bank favorable loans and money to and channel through various banks that control the right, like Deutsche Bank and of course the people that get their money from Goldman Sachs or Government Sachs feed into both sides. And so you have people like George Bush and his family that's been into central banking for generations, with George Bush Sr.'s father, Prescott Bush, Senator Prescott Bush, having basically been a chief arm of funding the Nazis and Adolf Hitler. Surprise, surprise. Yeah. That's been verified. And, of course, like people like Mitt Romney, who's been involved with those kinds of people in funding with his own enterprise and operation, and his father before him, working with the same people. And then, of course, you've had people like come to the fore that are do an expert job at behaving like conservatives, like Dick Cheney, who was at one time Nelson Rockefeller's right-hand man, fed into the higher-ups in government through the Ford administration. And along the way, so that before he became vice president, he was the director of the Council on Foreign Relations, which has in its virtual charter, vows by its organizer in chief and founder, that it would be set up with the goal of creating one world government controlled by, the bankster money. And so we're all about trying to let people understand that with Gulag Bound, that the top-down, fascist kind of control trying to exert itself on conservatives is the same source of funding for, and really, we believe, orchestration on the left as well.
Yeah.
And that, frankly, it does come from shared mentalities, if not generational, orchestrated management that stems right back to the French Revolution and the Bavarian Illuminati and the Rothschilds that all got together and fomented what we see here today. The Jacobins became the Marxists and neo-Marxists, and fascism later on in another generation or two was able to bring that back under greater control. And those are the two arms that are, steadfastly in control in South America and in a more quiet and surreptitious way in control with the powers that be back in the States here, where we think we have all this freedom.
Yeah,
where we think
and
we have
you know what's going on too is now these globalists. BRICS has to come out on top because the American people are resisting this global order. I don't want to say New World Order because that sounds so cliche, but the globalists, the internationalists, like John Kerry said, I'm an internationalist. I would only like to see the United States military dispersed around the world under the command of the UN. So right there, that's the global order. You know who it is. But they've gone operational. This ISIS thing, or ISIL. ISIS is Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. ISIL is the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. The Levant covers a heck of a lot more territory, including Persia and, Iraq, Turkey, Jordan, Israel, all of them. That's the Levant. They've declared a caliphate, but you know what the global order part of it is the extreme Islamists are a self-policing society. The men control the women and children brutally. They don't deal with gays and Christians and Jews and, infidels. They just kill them off. The imams control the men. So for the globalists, all they have to do is control the imams. Now, we also know that Obama has armed these ISIS people through Syria, through Libya, through Jordan, through Turkey. We know that the weapons that they were rounding up in Libya that belonged to the Russians and to Gaddafi somehow found their way to Syria. Of course, through Turkey. We've been following these weapons now for a while. You know that. Janice wrote the article a couple of days after the attack on the Benghazi compound. Everybody knows where the weapons came from, what they were doing, what the weapons were, and where they ended up. All right, so now we've armed these people. We dropped 600 of those Libyan freedom fighters, allegedly, into Syria to train everybody. Now, recently, in 2009, Obama released al-Baghdadi, who now has claimed himself the grand poobah over there of ISIS. So, like I said, they've gone operational. And look what they're doing to our border.
How can those coincidences happen? Yeah, and as it is in Syria and presently Iraq, so it has been in Egypt and Libya. There's just a nakedly exposed modus operandi of the Obama administration, coupled with these globalist thinkers like John McCain and Lindsey Graham in the Senate, and also Mitt Romney was a big fan of what we were doing in Egypt and Libya as well, to foment the terrorism effectively through these Islamists, to back them and throw legitimate regimes, as we had in Egypt and Libya, regimes that were actually cooperating with the United States. The CIA had gotten to Muammar Gaddafi years before, and Mubarak in Egypt was working with the United States of America as his predecessor Anwar Sadat did, effectively, stemming from the one thing that Jimmy Carter did kind of right in certain respects, and that was the accord with Israel and Egypt. So that was happening. That was clicking right along. And lo and behold, we have to have all this disruption and I have seen the people. It's time to pay more and more attention to those folks, even if they are on the left, that say that all of this in the Middle East. Pardon me, I have a sick dog in back of me. That all this upheaval has been due to the fact that these people were. Muammar Gaddafi was trying to set up a currency in Africa that would be Afrocentric, independent of the European banking complex.
Well, see, that's what it is. Right
and
there,
that
you just
Iraq
hit it.
and Iran, etc., are independent.
You just hit it, Alan. See, we're all focusing on ISIL and ISIS. We got to focus on the money. Who's driving this?
Hush.
Then you got to look at the Qataris. That's a happening place, boy.
Wait. Yes.
Is the dog okay?
Yes. Did you hear me yelling at the dog? I tried to mute my microphone.
No, most of us have dogs, so we understand. But that's what it is you got to follow the money. Alan is right. It goes beyond al-Baghdadi and ISIS. Who's funding them? When they tell you they got $6 billion, they didn't get that from robbing a bank. Who keeps $6 billion in a bank? Of course, there's no money in banks. There's computers in banks. Money's in vaults, and they're not even on site. So, why does Germany have to see us to get their gold back? There's no gold in the German banks. There's no gold in our banks. There's no money in our banks, except for enough cash on hand to deal with the smaller transactions. Any big transaction goes through a computer. It doesn't really it doesn't exchange hands. And that's what it is. It's the big money. Who's running the show? Who benefits from all of this? Certainly not the people. Like the guy that called in, he said it doesn't matter your race or, gender. That's inconsequential to the people that are putting this together.
And,
so then
and we just had this bubble up news. Yeah, this bubble up news from General Petraeus at the quote-unquote Margaret Thatcher Conference on Liberty in England, where he went after America.
Yeah.
He's just no bones about it. What comes after America is North America, and so he was just pitching the North American integration line very, very strongly, and it's not able to be questioned what he said. He said, after America comes North America. Are we on the threshold of the North American decade, ? I threw that away, threw away that question mark, and boldly proclaimed the coming North American decade, says the title now. He also boasted how the three economies have been put together over the last 20 years as part of the implementation of the North American Free Trade Act. So some of us have to eat a little crow about our being for North American free trade and some of these other transnational
we have
agreements.
some other problems. We have some other problems, not just the North American free trade, but we got the Trans-Pacific Partnership now, which erodes our sovereignty. And I have been reading articles for the last few days about the UN is now adding a disarmament commission to their staff. They want to disarm us. They're arming every faction, every radical, every cartel, but they want to disarm us. They're even arming federal agencies. The Social Security Office. Are you expecting a bunch of 90-year-olds to rumble or something? Why do they need high-power weapons and checkpoints and things like that? DHS is out of control. They've militarized all our local police departments, and now they have a disarmament commission. As far as I can see about that UN, they can move it to East I Don't Give a Stan and turn the building into a much-needed municipal parking garage. We are a sovereign nation.
And as our Teresa found out, not only has the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement been a thorn in the flesh with the people of the West, so to speak, and across one side and the other of the Pacific Ocean, trying to come up with a trade agreement that inflicts policy that becomes effectively law in America upon us. And both the left and the right are concerned about that, but now WikiLeaks has exposed information about an Atlantic agreement, and also an organization called the Trade in Services Agreement, which threatens to affect up to 70%
Obama
of
has
the
signed
trade in services.
Obama has signed all 3 of those agreements that he has no business signing. They have not been ratified yet. They do have to be ratified. But we're probably like 1 or 2 votes away from getting them ratified, too. I mean, it's that close. And that erodes our sovereignty.
We could go on and on about that. What I also wanted to bring out is that I allege that these top-down controllers that work through the phony conservative side channel our efforts into these efforts to open our borders up as well instead of our desire to close them. Grover Norquist, I wrote about him about 2 years ago. If you want to go to Gulag Bound, web search gulagbound.com and Grover, Grover, and Trouble, you would see my article, The Trouble at CPAC, about Grover Norquist, and at the time it was all coming out about his affinities for and proclivities on the side of promoting Muslims and radical Muslims. But also what I tried to make a point of was that he has even boasted about how he has taken, in the coalition that he builds, and he's been working at that for decades now, building a coalition of what he calls center-right groups, whether it's pro-lifers or Tea Party-type organizations, or you can just about name it, anything on the right. He tries to build them in a coalition to work together on policies that also are for tax reform. That's his organization. It's all about tax reform. But what he said and has been quoted on is that he also turns that effort and that impact and that momentum instead of away from things like favored nation status with China and building foreign enterprise zones with China and giving them more and more authority over and jurisdiction over real estate and land holdings and industry in America. He helps to draw that energy in favor of that, just as the Bushes do and the Romneys do and all these other operations. So that's how it's done. It's done so that, as Republicans often so like to say, they say that our core issues are limited government and free enterprise. Okay, that sounds really good at the start, but then when you think about it the way those people think of it, limited government as opposed to what? The Marxist vanguard on the Democratic Party, and that means that the Republicans always play the synthesizer compromisers according to the Hegel and Marx dialectic model, which is Marxism 101, so that Republicans are always the ones that are able to say, no, we're for more limited government than the Democrats are trying to give us. And so they just keep sliding us along in the direction of the Democrats, and that's the way their limited government works. And then on the side of free enterprise, what free enterprise means to them is not the Adam Smith original model for America, where we took in consideration national interest in the formulating of our economic policies and our treaties that would be like one-on-one with every nation that we dealt with, and the internal policies from state-to-state commerce, that we always took a look at how it affects and supports popular sovereignty with state and national sovereignty to protect it. But instead, free enterprise to these folks and so many libertarians as well means open borders. It doesn't mean a thing that you're in America and Lee's in China and Jose is in Venezuela. And of course, John is in London, working for the City of London.
Yeah, well, for them.
It all means that we can operate as one big free economy, and that is not freedom. That's that's becoming again a suzerain or a controlled state under the auspices of globalist shadow government.
Exactly.
Because when you create trade policies, when you create Agenda 21 style and FDA compromising with Codex Alimentarius from the UN, all these things, when you create policies like that, whether it's through soft,
you're breaking up a little bit.
Here's our document. You work by it, or whether it's by hard law, you become once again a colony to imperialism.
Exactly. Hey, Arlen, why don't you tell our listeners, and your listeners too, why don't you tell us how you're going to set up your show and some of the things you're going to be covering and stuff
like that. We'll be delving into this. We'll be talking about it, historically, but we're also going to be featuring. When we were on with PRN before, we called it Sovereignty Unbound because that's the actual name of our LLC that hosts Gulag Bound and the Sovereignty Campaign. But I think we might just call this. I'll have to make up my mind the next day or so and talk to M. Freebird, but I think we'll probably call it the Sovereignty Campaign through the summer. And we'll be covering what we're going to be doing about the problem that I just talked about and how we're going to be dealing with it. And we'll be bringing aboard activists that are working on the cause and talking a little bit more about the history and the current affairs and the problems under the rocks that we'd like to address in Gulag Bound. But the Sovereignty Campaign is going to be all about assessing candidates by whether or not, lo and behold, they'll get to the true core issues of what America is all about in government, and that is protecting our popular sovereignty, which means our private sovereignty, which means by natural law that the colonists were working on at the time, that theory of understanding that we're all free creatures created by God to live free lives, but we also have a burden to order ourselves in society, so we have natural law and natural rights informing the social contract that we each as sovereign citizens choose to live our lives by, to cooperate, so that government is there not to impose things upon us, and so that we have a conflict between rights of man and government control, but instead that government is there to uphold our natural rights and our ruling over government as sovereigns of our country, so that we have state sovereignty with individual states handling most of the law and legislation and enforcement, and then that is guarded by the federal government and not usurped by the federal government, and so that federal or national sovereignty is not usurped by these foreign enterprises, so that we have popular sovereignty with state and national sovereignty to guard or serve and protect it. And that is the reason we have government. That's what it is to be an American. So we're going to be training our people that come in to see us about what's really at the core of American government. But we're also going to be focusing on the Senate candidates, because those are the guys that ratify treaties, as you mentioned, and or choose not to. And we're going to be posing questions to them. We're going to be digging out of their voting histories and their stances on the issues, whether or not they're for popular sovereignty, which I mean personal sovereignty, I mean by that, with state and national sovereignty to protect and serve it. And if we can get enough of a coalition together to present enough throw weight, and I'm hoping to do this right away with listing up activists such as yourself, and listing up organizations, and I'm going to talk to Mike about that, and listing up all the internet activists that we have on our side, not necessarily the organizations at this point, but the activists like in healthcare. Let's get C. Stephen Tucker and David Janda on board with this, and like in pro-life, let's get Stephen Ertel and Jill Stanek on board with this, for example. And in gun rights, let's get those people involved.
I love C. Stephen Tucker and his dear friend K.L. South.
That's right, and we can present
he's into the banking. He knows all that banking.
Exactly, and we can present the wherewithal of all of the internet activists that are the movers and shakers. As many can, come one, come all, and hop aboard and just be subscribers of one kind or another with us, and and endorse what the effort is, and formulate questions that we can pose to these senators right in the nick of time here before the general elections of whether or not they're going to abide by these principles. And we will have a question oriented probably toward pro-life, toward pro-gun, but we're going to formulate these questions toward banking in terms of our core value of popular sovereignty with state and national sovereignty to guard it. So we'll have a question there about the Federal Reserve and what to do with it. And do you recognize that a human being in the womb is a sovereign human being created under God to live a life that he rules. I should also say that I've been saying this. Popular sovereignty, I should say, popular sovereignty under God is the way we were founded, with state and national sovereignty to guard it. Apologies for not mentioning it that way, because all these things are very well spelled out in the Declaration of Independence, and which says that we're endowed by our Creator with unalienable rights, and that when government becomes too much of a grievance that is a despot effect that takes away our popular sovereignty and abuses our rights, it's not only our right but our duty to...
When the government becomes abusive to these ends, it's the right and duty and privilege of the citizen to replace that government.
Yes, to change it,
and
we have to try to change it, or else we'll have to replace it. And
well,
so
I tell you what,
it's wild with what I'm saying here, with bringing up one thing and another. Pardon me for doing that, but basically, to put it in a nutshell, with the sovereignty campaign, we're going to start not only evaluating and giving hard grades and scores to senators and senator candidates, but we're also going to be surveying them if we can pull together the right people to show them, here are the activists on the internet, and we're going to survey you on these questions. And we're going to, for once, define what the core of being an American is in an authentic way, based on the Declaration of Independence and based on the documents of our founding fathers in general, and probably ask 5 to 10 questions of these senators, and we'll see who responds, or these candidates, and see who does not. And
I look forward to
this.
I look forward to your sovereignty campaign, and you can count on me for help. You have a fantastic crew. I know most of the people that you work with, and I'll tell you, your colleagues, and some of our colleagues overlap as well. And I'll tell you, I'm looking forward to your show. All right, well, you want to tell everybody to just check you next Monday, and then there's a few more things I want to get out of the way, and then we're going to leave it to you for the summer.
And I want to be keeping in touch with you, and blessings with your hiatus there, and also with the people that work with you on a voluntary basis. Perhaps you could give me some navigation about that, and I am looking for help, continued help, if possible, in production, behind the scenes switchboard work and stuff. As you see today, I haven't had trouble using Skype to come on board.
Well, that's all right. I'll go over with you as much as I'll help you with as much as I'm qualified to do, but a couple of our colleagues in Freeburg can help you with the Skype thing. I don't use Skype, so I'm a speed bump on the information highway, pothole.
When we were on, Katz, and when we were on before, we got to interview Diana West, who wrote her book about American Betrayal, about the close connections and symbiotic relationship and simpatico beliefs of the FDR and Democratic administrations during World War II between their administration and Moscow, and who's gone on since to uncover more about our close relationships, especially on the Democratic side, with out-and-out communists. And then we got to interview Jim Simpson, and he's got a book coming out in a few months on some of these very factors, and more of an up-to-date book about current world events. And so we'll be probably doing more interviews.
I have a dear friend of mine who's a sovereign citizen and an expert at it. I will connect you to as well, because he has all the information, the documents, the files. The man is a walking library on sovereign citizenry. So I'll hook you up with him too. His name is Fred.
And that's all true. It's important to carry forward that understanding that our founders built. What we also want to differentiate ourselves, though, from is these people that think that being a sovereign citizen, quote unquote, is being totally alienated, totally apart from government and the ability or need to participate in government. And that's not the kind of guy you're describing, right?
No. He's very much involved in the government, and he just tries to keep them on the right track. He's an original constitutionalist. He's sovereign. He knows all.
That's right. And when people say sovereign citizen, a lot of people.
Oh yeah, they just think it's somebody
Department
trying
of
to get
Justice,
over.
The older people are trying to. Yeah, they're trying to make that a word that would bring up images of people that live in the woods and wilds of Alaska. And
no. This man is very much
government.
This man is very much integrated into society. He's a businessman. Anyhow, Alan, I want to thank you very, very much for coming in today, and I want to wish you the best of luck with your show. And I'll be here to help you out as much as I can. I'll be around, so you can contact me anytime, and you'll reach me. If there's any questions you have or any help you need or with anything, I'll be more than happy to help you. It's just our crew needs a little bit of a break for the summer, and we're so appreciative that you're willing to take the time slot and hold on to it and get your sovereignty campaign started. So, again,
thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I look forward to listening as much as I possibly can.
Okay. Well, JoJo, we'll count on that, and we'll carry forward and try to do the time slot proud, and be in touch with you and Freebird and Denise and Bobby and all the crew. And
Denise knows all. Denise and Bobby know all that Skyping stuff too, so they can help you out. They're experts at that.
Very good.
Yeah, we're a good team.
Try to do you up proud.
Of course, if we start having withdrawals and there's some huge breaking news, you might have to give us 10 minutes.
There you go.
If something breaks while you're on the air, can we jump in and bring it to your attention immediately?
Let's do that. As a matter of fact, after the program, we can talk about that, because I'm actually I would appreciate some help on the news side, because I have to juggle so many tasks, and I can report about what I'm doing and the people that I'm doing it with, but on the breaking news side, it's really time consuming, isn't it? I want to I give my props to you two and Bobby and Denise and all of the folks that do the PRN programs, the dudes as well, because you all do such a really good job of hardcore analysis with breaking news, and it takes a lot of work, just as Teresa and Maggie's Notebook, Maggie Thornton does with our team at Gulag Bound. Just takes a lot of work, and we can't do everything at once.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, we have a great crew, and our crew will help your crew, and like I said, we overlap it. We all know each other, and we're a big family here, and the whole country. All of us know each other, and we'll keep it together, and we'll keep this going. Alan, I want to thank you very much for coming in tonight and introducing yourself, and I look forward to hearing your show next week, and I'll talk to you after the show.
Likewise. Talk to you then. God bless. Have a good evening.
Thank you, and God bless you too, Alan. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Alan Williams. He is the editor-in-chief of Gulag Bound, and he's the founder and CEO of Sovereignty Campaign, which is a new LLC. Again, Alan, thank you so much. All right, I'm going to put him back on hold. Now, JoJo, you want to bring up anything before we get to the next story? We've got a couple more minutes here, and I want to bring up the Mississippi election.
Oh, okay. Well, when you bring that up, let me go. You start, because I want you to know that I looked up the Democratic candidates that will be running against that Cochran, obviously, because they're going to, certify the election first. And this guy, I'm not telling you I went in depth. I just glanced at him. He is a conservative, moderate Democrat. So, you know what? He may not be too bad. I think if I lived in Mississippi, I'd vote for the Democrat.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, Mississippi, the Republicans and the conservatives and the independents in Mississippi are absolutely losing their mind over this. This was the dirtiest primary that we've seen on the Republican side in a long, long time. Even, with the Ron Paul things, it got dirty, but this might have even gotten a little dirtier. You had guys like Haley Barbour, who was the governor of Mississippi, helping out Tad Cochran, who actually, I don't think that Tad Cochran even wants the job. I think that he just wanted to win the election and be there for like the next year and then retire and let the governor choose a replacement. And it certainly wouldn't be a Tea Party candidate that they would choose. So they had to really fight and scrap. What they did, though, was they made deals with the Democrats. If they would go and do fraudulent votes, that Tad Cochran would hook them up afterwards. Well, now you got the Black Congressional Caucus saying, well, yeah, we helped you out. Now you owe us. We own you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And we want you to do this, that, and the other. You know, we want you to vote on the food stamps, and we want you to vote on those budgets and all of that. Well, it looks like McDaniels might be trying to challenge this. But, you know, it sounds all good in theory, but I got to caution people. You all remember when 2008, Florida had moved its election up, and they were stripped of their votes by the DNC. Well, that was challenged, and it went into court, and the court and the appellate court found that the DNC and the RNC are private entities, and they can run their primary any way they want. They don't even have to have a primary. They can just choose who they're going to run. So,
which is exactly what they do. Our vote don't count. But let me read this. Let me just go over this Democratic candidate real quick, and then we can discuss it a little more. This is Mississippi Democrat faces long odds against Senator Cochran. Travis Childers, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but that's his name. He lives in North Mississippi. So he's traveled to southern Mississippi to, shake hands, kiss babies, and all that kind of stuff. And he said his name, he doesn't have a good name recognition, and he said that it was low enough that it hurt his feelings. And so he went down there and started shaking hands, kissing babies, and told people in South Mississippi, don't be afraid of me because I live up in the north, but, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
This guy, let's see if I can find what I think. He faces an uphill battle against Cochran, who's in line to chair the powerful Appropriations Committee if Republicans take control of the Senate, okay? Think about that, the Appropriations Committee.
Mm-hmm.
Political experts and even fellow Democrats say Childers must appeal to conservative white voters as well as to blacks, a difficult task in a racially polarized state. Childers is going to have a difficult time winning the election because, number one, he's a Democrat, and the face of the new Democratic Party in Mississippi is a black face. It's not a coalition face. But others say Childers can be competitive. This guy served a 2-year term in the Mississippi State House. He's a Republican,
State legislator.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Okay, this lady says, Jennifer Duffy, he's a solid candidate. It's really hard to turn him into a screaming liberal. I think he's pretty modest. He's a good campaigner. He's very personable, and he's smart. We will continue. Let's see. Childers stands a chance of winning if Democrats, particularly blacks, turn out in significant numbers for him. Blacks who traditionally support Democrats make up nearly 40% of the state's population. I'm trying to get to the part more about him.
Yeah, well, his chances to win just went up exponentially.
Oh, it would be for me. If I was a Chris McDaniel fan, I'd be voting for him. I'm trying to get to the part about...
Tad Cochran may have just single-handedly lost that seat. Losing seats is not a good strategy. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, I'm trying to find it. Basically, he is a fiscally conservative Democrat.
So he's an old-school Democrat.
He's an old-school Democrat. He's fiscally conservative. And, I hadn't checked into him other than just one article here, but, dadgum.
Yeah, we'll look into him. We'll look into him really good because if he's any good, like that guy Steve Lynch from Massachusetts. I thought he was the last old school Democrat around. He's more conservative than half these Republicans we know. So
this is what this girl said. She said about Childers. He's a blue dog coalition of fiscally conservative House Democrats.
Yeah, but, is he gonna vote in lockstep with them though? We got to look it over. But I'll tell you something. Tad Cochran, with the help of Haley Barbour and Karl Rove and that whole crew, could have just single-handedly lost a seat that was solid, but is now in play. And those people in Mississippi are furious. They don't like to get screwed like that. Right in their face. You're going to do this to them? So if that seat is lost, You know, are the Republicans taking a dive? Is that what it is? You know, so they can't be blamed for stuff? Well, you know, like I said, they haven't been the majority.
Well, we don't have a two-party system. But I just want to say this because we're running out of time. Anybody out there that believes this bull crap about the Boehner lawsuit has lost their mind. First of all, you can file a lawsuit. It'll take 2 or 3 years maybe to get to court. And it'll go through yada, yada, this, that, you know, delayed, da-da-da-da-da-da. And Obama only has 18 months or so left in office. This lawsuit thing is nothing but a fluff. It is nothing but a dog whistle. It is nothing but a pile of dogs.
Yeah, it's just an empty promise.
If anybody out there thinks that this is a good thing, or they think Boehner's being legitimately conservative, well, I just totally disagree. This is just fluff. Fluff, that's all it is.
Yeah, it could be just something to say he's doing something. All right, well, say goodnight, everybody, and you'll see them all in September.
Oh. All right, see you all in September. Don't forget about us. We'll check in from time to time. Remember, don't forget about our Facebook group page, Moretti Underground, on Facebook. That's where all our friends are, and that's where all the good news is, because all our friends put all the best news on that page.
And our individual pages. All right, my friend. Good night.
All right,
and I will
see you later.
Talk
to you later. All right, bye.
All right, everybody, that is all the time we have for today, and we hope you enjoyed our show. And to everybody who's listening, everybody who called, all the cool people in the chat rooms, thank you so much. Anna, Lynn, AstroTurf, Color Me Red, Carol Ray, all of you, great job, great job. Thank you to our very special guest, Arlen Williams, who's going to be taking over the show for the season. As always, thank you to my great co-host, JoJo Norton, and thank you to Scott F. Ferrarello, because he's our graphic guy, and he's the one that puts all our stuff onto YouTube and makes all those wonderful pictures for us and everything. So on that note, good night, America. We will see you in September, and the vacation starts now. We love you.